maybe a little bit of Lenny Hayes factor.
Well, it is their 5th match here this year. They've won 3 and lost just the 1, the Saints. So they do have good form here this year and over the years. They're underway, though. And Jason Blake taking the opening bounce. We know it's a bit of a strange old situation with the injuries to McAvoy and Stanley, that Jason Blake would take the first bounce in a game.
And it does look as if Clint Jones has gone to McVeigh, skipper of the Swans. So it's going to be a tough day for him, because Jones has got an incredible record of locking down on players.
Still over the years, the Swans, we often see clubs have much lower average number disposals in total, and even the individual players as well when they come up against the Swans.
And Joey Kennedy going head-to-head with Lenny Hayes, which is great. Both either side of the umpire.
Looks like Goddard's just wheeling into the mix there as well. Here it comes to Graham. And it's St Kilda going first, because this has been in really good contested marking form this year. Shaw got the clearing kick. And good to have Gwilt back in the St Kilda lineup. Here's Goddard. Kick would almost bring rain. Not that they need any help in that front at the moment in Melbourne. As the Saints try and force it forward. Upended. And it was a free kick. And Nick Smith, who has previously done some good jobs on Stephen Milne, takes the free. So Shaw brings it across to Richards. And both feeling each other out at the moment. There's a well-placed ball for Kennedy. Jack Stephen in attendance for the Saints.
Dempster running with McGlynn at the present time.
Kieran Jack was in slashing form last week. Works his way out of trouble here. Well, not completely. Didn't really help the cause for Kennedy, but he has some help from Johnson. Spearing ball was good ball. Reid was much better in the second half last week, which is a good sign. McVeigh goes for Roberts Thompson, but that was easy fodder back there for Geary. So Geary off at a trot. Well, a bit of a shove, it thought in the back of Kazitsky. The umpire didn't view it the same way.
And the Saints electing to push everybody up the ground, but keep Nick Riewoldt at home, meaning Ted Richards is going to have some serious work to do.
Lots of hands on the footy, lots of Sydney hands. And it returns it straight over.
Interesting battle at the moment. Jason Graham and Ryan O'Keefe going head-to-head, and both trying to play pretty attacking.
Well, they all closed in on Lenny Hayes, but not before he released it back to Montagna. His numbers are down for the 2nd consecutive year. Bolton, Hanbury, pushing it wider.
Just not working as hard. Hutto watching Lee Montagna, just not doing enough without the ball.
Bird drives to half forward, and there's the applause for Gwilt back in the team.
Also going to be a tough afternoon for forwards. I mean, both teams love to have that extra in defence. The +1, as it's referred to, more often than not. So you'll see forwards having to contend 1 against 2 far too often.
In the back, Bolton.
Free kick goes the way of Jude Bolton.
Got plenty of the ball early, the Swans.
Just beyond him, Reed's deep. Also down there, Walsh. Couldn't quite get to the contest. And it ends up in St Kilda's hands. Blake sharing it with Graham. Played 4 games so far this year. It's an important component of the St Kilda run. Milne, maybe overdid it again a fraction. Hanbury feeding it for Jack. Doesn't think he's within range and pops it up for McGlynn, which is not necessarily all that smart with such a small man.
Got to be careful, Stephen Milne. I mean, you can be clever up forward and get away with it if you make the odd mistake, but not at half-back, trying to do too much.
McGlynn giving him the same instructions, telling him to keep it low. Jack Stephen, and there's nowhere out for him yet there. O'Keefe, McVeigh, Roberts Thompson, they cleared the path. Bit of a flying shot from Johnson. That just shows how many numbers are inside the forward 50 when Alex Johnson's having a shot. And the first score belongs to the Swans.
Well, contested possessions the same. 7 and 5 are roughly the same, but uncontested possession, Sydney have doubled the Saints at this stage. 20-9. They're not just not getting the footy, the Saints.
Early days yet. Over the head of Richards. And again, the Swans take possession of the Sherrin. Smith got Bird going. Into the 50, Bolton. It's congested down there. Dempster, a former Swan, of course. Geary took his time, thought one way and then decided the other. Maybe wished he'd changed his mind back.
While that was happening, Lenny Hayes came off for a spell. Josh Kennedy came with him. That's a creative matchup from both coaches if they're prepared to allow the 2 gun midfielders to go head-to-head for the majority of the match.
Much point in tagging them, though. They basically still get their same amount of possessions. The one I'm surprised is that Jetta starting on the bench.
Here's Rito. He hit it at the right time, but couldn't hang on. McVeigh stretched over the top. Parker. McGlynn. Gilbert being careful not to give away the free. Having said that, though, Jared, Kennedy's numbers have been down the last 2 weeks. He still kicked goals, I think 2 and 3 goals, but opposition have tagged him and restricted him somewhat. But I know what you mean. You know, he just wins his own footy, doesn't he?
And he's gone forward and kicked those goals. So, speaking of which, there's another one missed by McVeigh.
Mark McVeigh's brother?
Mike McVeigh's brother, Jared.
Just problems here for the Saints early on, Jared and Jace. I just think they've gone to Kosicki and Riewoldt 4 times, and they've been negated every time by Richards and Grundy straight away.
This is Simpkin advancing down the ground, giving them their first real meaningful forward thrust. Grundy's timing was pretty good, although Kosicki might have the last say here. Riewoldt got all the way through. Saad working it outside. Now Milne, he had 3 around him. Somehow he finds a way and finishes it perfectly onto the chest of Jack Stevens.
Early worries for the Swans. Lewis Roberts-Thompson hurt himself in that contest with Simpkin. I think it was the long kick out from Del Santo. He came straight off the ground. Keep an eye out what happened there.
Classic fast break footy, and Stephen Milne does it as well as anybody. A slip tackle and then a kick that went about 9.3 metres.
Well, he's certainly come a long way, Jack Stephen, in the last 12 to 18 months. Probably along with Ben McAvoy, their most improved player last year, and he's continued on so far this year. Big kick for them here. He's done enough. It's a goal, and they're off and running.
Well, in the finish, a good start by the Saints. Well down on possessions, well down on time in forward 50. But if they're going to play the counter-attack game of footy, well, then this is what it's all about. You take it in, you've just got to make the most of your opportunities, and that's what they did. Wasn't a great decision by Cozzy, but that was a pretty smart piece of play by Stephen Milne. Jack Stephen having a terrific year, a breakout season for him, and he's off to a good start with an early goal.
Seven goals, 5 this year for Jack Stephen.
As we see so often, a rest for the goal kicker. Lewis Roberts-Thompson back on for the Swans. And no relief for him, though, straight into the ruck.
So forward 50s 4-1, but the all-important one for St Kilda was converted into a goal. McVeigh. And this is a sight we're going to see plenty of today. Just numbers swelling everywhere.
Yeah, we just saw Lewis Roberts-Thompson also into the ruck. Part-timers, they're getting plenty of opportunity to get their hands on the footy, and all they're really doing is nullifying the opposition. Unless you get that sort of scenario, you should be able to hit a target.
Yeah, Blake was left pretty much on his own there. Malcheski into the 50, where so many numbers in the midfield. There's still a bit of space up forward. Reid, he is starting at the field for it again. That's a lovely goal.
Started very well, Sam Reid. I'm just a little unsure about the matchup. Sam Gilbert, who doesn't normally go to the #1 forward for the opposition. It's going to be a big job, and he got lost after the initial contest. Sam Reid turned around, ran back hard with the flight of the footy. You can just see there on the right of screen, he does a little bit of ball watching, then he actually goes for the football. Gilbert doesn't get there, and that leaves his man loose to pick up the crumbs.
Well, his 6th goal for the season, Sam Reid, and he should be whipping straight over to his teammate Tommy Walsh, because it was a magnificent tap with a outside of the hand for a kid that doesn't really have a great grounding in the sport. It was brilliant work.
I felt watching last week's game, Jared, that the presence of Walsh actually helped Reid in that second half. Again, as you mentioned, hard to know what to read from that game against Melbourne, but good signs for Sam Reid. Now they're on the break here. Malera into the 50. Grundy's worked the angles fairly well in front of Kosicki. Had a little glance over the shoulder to make sure that he had a metre or two to work with. Gets it along the line, but Goddard was reading that. Misses Farron Ray, and that allows Jetta in, and that's something you don't want to do, because suddenly defence can turn into attack. Kennedy and they're powering forward. Angled kick from Bird. Oh, that's testing the umpire's measuring skills.
It was a brilliant kick.
Just laid it straight back again. Thumping ball from Bolton's got there.
Turnovers cost you big time. Brendan Goddard right on the wing. The ball was only about a foot or so inside touch, and he went for the hand pass over his head, missed his target, turned it over. What I like about this, Mike Pike, he's not confusing ambition with ability. He said, Jude Bolton's a better kick than I am. He's heading towards goal. I'll give it to him. And they get the reward.
But the really good kick was that of Ben McGlynn's, because there was no one forward. That was going to be a turnover ball had he not hit a target.
So consecutive goals to the Swans, and suddenly they lead by 8. Again, it's Roberts-Thompson trying to combat Blake in the middle. Blake got the tap and followed up nicely down to Hayes. Big cheer for him every time he goes near it, but Richards onto the drop first.
And Jetta onto the ground, and Dempster's gone straight to him.
And Matner in game number 200. Sharp kick to Richards, just advancing through the middle. Thoroughly sold that one. Kick to half forward. Simpkin worked out of it by Walsh illegally.
Well, the question was it in the side or in the back? He certainly nudged him forward, and that's all the umpire saw.
And now they can use Gwilt and Ray in game 150, so there's milestones everywhere. Dempster, a little bit of a standoff there. Jack was closing. Gwilt lends some assistance, much needed. Might need to do some more to help out the mate here. Scrubby old kick. Armitage, McVeigh in prime position. Interesting handball. O'Keefe liked it, and now he likes it more. It's not quite going to get there, as you can see. Parker kept it alive. McVeigh, crafty. Simpkin doing what good defenders do.
Now, good start by Jarrod McVeigh. Just couldn't quite impact on the scoreboard, but showed clean hands and a clear head when he snaffled that one.
They do look dangerous, Sydney, don't they?
It's a horrible feeling when you're deep in defence like Sean Dempster was, and you're looking for options and there's nothing. He turned around and changed direction twice and still couldn't find an option.
Gwilt heads outside defensive 50 successfully to Cripps, and now Ray off and dashing and kicking to an area where there really wasn't any St Kilda players at all. Handball stretched tight along the line. Swans able to just keep it in, wait until the good option came. Grundy drives to a one-on-one. Matner has it knocked away.
That's the problem at the moment, Jared, is the problem is across half forward at the moment for St Kilda. They just can't find a target, an uncontested marker or a key post target at the moment.
Is it the pressure the Swans are putting on, or the lack of the options presenting?
Oh, they're going one-on-one, so there's pressure on everywhere, but I just think that their work rate is a fraction down in that area of the ground.
Interesting that I see O'Keefe running head-to-head with Del Santo.
Now they're running again, the Swans. This is what I was talking about, how dangerous they look with their combinations. Kennedy had it wrenched away from him nicely, though. Or Malera handball to Mr. Nobody. He was in betwixt and between. And they give, I wouldn't say love there to McGlynn, just off camera for a moment. There was a bit of a tension, though. And we'll have a throw in about 75 metres around from goal.
Brendan Goddard has pushed forward, which I think is a good move, now that they're so down when Kazitsky goes into the ruck, that it still gives them that structure up forward.
Graham to the wing. Have you worked out your thoughts on St Kilda this year, Jared?
I think they're very difficult. I was impressed with the win, obviously, against Carlton. They were really good in the second half last week. They had some reasons why I think they were poor in the first half. The Monday night game, I think, is a real trap for all clubs. But whether they're better than middle of the rung, I think we're going to find out over the next 4 to 6 weeks.
A little help, of course. Brook getting it up to the wing arm. It's Del Santo, spearing ball, loping out. The big fella there was Goddard. Milne around the corner. Here's Kazitsky with 3 Swans there, and he knew he was beaten. And away goes Jack. Slots it to half back. Strange miss there from Matner, but no real damage done. Kennedy loping and waiting till there was someone on the scene, and that someone is Jude Bolton. Simpkin did well not to give away the free, just sweating, but it comes Bird's way. Got the round to the kitchen.
Right. Seemed to be a bit hotter on the throw so far in this particular round. And a win here today, Hutto, would go a significant way to showing that the Saints can take it up the sides in the top half of the ladder, get some points, even though they have got some serious injuries.
Well, it blow it even the race open even more, wouldn't it? The way things are going with the Richmond victory. Here's Kazitsky doing well, outnumbered, just box on and maybe keep it locked in this 50. Saad, the ball might still go his way. It doesn't, but Johnson under all sorts of pressure just got it away in the absolute nick of time. Kazitsky could still have a say in this. Dangerous ball. Was that high on Armitage? The umpire, I think, made the right call, I think.
Thought it was a brilliant tackle by Hanbury, who saw that he was getting approached by, who was it, Armitage, coming through with his head, and he went around the ribs instead of going around the neck.
Here's McGlynn taking it out to Roberts-Thompson. Dempster trying to track Jetta. Kicked it into the space, backing the pace of Jetta, but Dempster with a little bit of extra strength and experience just nudged him out of it. That was, well, it was close to being either holding the ball or deliberate, but it was probably neither.
Nick Del Santo comes off for a spell. Craig Bird as well. He's trying to follow him everywhere he goes now.
So Sydney 2-3-15 from 7 entries, and St Kilda 1 goal straight from 5. McGlynn found a bit of room for himself, but only a little bit. O'Keefe.
Well, McGlynn did everything right there. Won the clearance, evaded players, and then did a shabby handball, putting his teammate under pressure, going to the feet.
A bit rushed too from the Saints and from Lenny Hayes. Goddard couldn't take it cleanly. Kennedy, and they spring into attack again. McVeigh takes the mark. Thought about Roberts-Thompson, and he still wants to get to him. And
dropped it.
He's paid it.
I reckon that hit the deck.
Gee.
It looked like it hit the deck underneath him. He's being paid the benefit of the doubt. Not going to be much closer at all than where McVeigh was. That's not a mark. Not by any stretch of the imagination is that a mark. So he's got away with one there.
Well, it'll be interesting if he goes back and slots this, then Jarryd McVeigh knows more about his recent goal-kicking history than history would suggest. Because McVeigh was in a better spot to shoot himself.
2 goals straight he has this year, and that's just changed.
Is that reviewable, boys? When you see it clearly bounced like that on the replay on the big screen, the umpires have all seen that.
If we start going down that track,
okay,
we'll review everything, Kingy.
I know what you're saying, because it's a scoring involvement, if you like.
The game stopped, and it was a set shot at goal.
Wilt needed to get plenty on the kick, and he did just that. Simpkin is some good hard running from Clint Jones ahead.
He's been one of their real positives this year, Simpkin.
Looks a great find, doesn't he?
Yep.
He's comfortable in his own skin as he kicks up to the wing. Well, not so well. And Pike takes the mark. Credit to Pike that they've chosen him ahead of Seavey, who rucked well for a couple of weeks and then obviously didn't do enough for them.
Jesse White's another. I don't think any of them have actually shown too much form, so they're all getting an opportunity, but no one's claimed it as yet.
Simpkin, Dempster, Jones.
Knocking around.
Yeah, is there a way out for them? Up to the wing. Shaw. Saad covered.
What a battle that is. Saad is obviously so electric going towards the goals, and he knows that his opponent, Shaw, is so electric as a rebound player.
Montagna gaining territory, but not sure of advantage. Well, Stephen turned it into one. A real win for the Saints in the middle. Blake goes to Revolt, who's been quiet. In fact, that's his first touch so far. Saad versus Shaw. Might fancy Ray instead as a wobbly way of getting there, but hey, who's complaining?
It was good vision, but a dreadful kick. He just got there. It was a shocker off the boot for Nick Revolt, but he saw the loose man, and Farron Ray in game number 150. Wouldn't he love to have a big impact tonight? Been
in good form, Farron Ray. Coming back into the side, excellent in a lockdown job on Simpson. Best on ground against the Blues. What was it, 2 weeks ago? Pretty good last week in a losing side, and off to a start here.
Originally went at pick 4 in the 2003 draft, Farron Ray. And that was never quite going to be where he wanted it to be. 1 goal, 2 for the season now for Farron Ray. Shaw, quick change of mind, got good protection on the mark, allowed him to escape and gain those extra valuable metre or two. Reed over the top, Jack in the end gets it from Kennedy. It was a bit of a handoff. Parker kept on coming. Gilbert spinning, got out of there somehow. Stephen, they work the angles again. They're coming from either way. Big Mike was there. He got to the right spot, but just couldn't quite complete the job. But hey, they got away with it again.
Just showed better reading of the ball, though. He didn't, as you said, make the mark, but he was in exactly the right position.
Bird to McVeigh.
Oh, this is dangerous. Over the top.
Cutting them apart with short passes, aren't they? Just using their foot skills, the Swans.
Could have gone to Tommy Walsh, but just was a little slow to get back behind the mark. Still there. Kennedy, was his hand held? It was.
Just so dangerous because of his size. Intimidation often causes blokes to just grab a jumper or grab a hand. And this bloke at, what would he be, 194 or so? Pretty big for a midfielder. Goes forward and takes generally guys much smaller than him with him.
Well, he's listed at 188.
He's taller than that.
He's 96 kilos. And he's lining up for goals. We mentioned 3 and 2 goals in the last couple of weeks. And that's a sharp kick. And the Swans suddenly lead by 15. And the difference between goal kicking there, I mean, Ray misses his.
Yep.
Kennedy puts through a tougher one. And there's a big gap between the two sides on the scoreboard.
Yeah, not much in this game at the moment. It is just little things. And there you see the grab of the jumper. Lee Montagna gives it away, and good finish by Joey Kennedy. I think the big concern for St Kilda right now is the scoreboard at 3-4. So 7 scoring shots to just the 2. And the inside 50s, well, it's not that far apart. 7 scoring, 7 to 9. So the Swans are scoring a hell of a lot when they go in there.
Well, Del Santo coming up for just his 2nd possession of the day. Kennedy already has 8, including 4 contested possessions.
It's a good kick.
Yeah, it was. To Blake, who takes the mark.
And that's good work from Blake. He's got to try and exploit Mike Pike when he's in the ruck, and different options, push forward and be that creative type, whether it's Lewis Roberts-Thompson or Mike Pike that's in the ruck. I think it was LRT at that particular point in time.
Yeah.
But he's got to run hard forward. He has got a great tank, Jason Blake.
Well, of course, he celebrated his 200th game earlier in the year. 35 goals along the journey. And this is match number 208. Hasn't kicked a goal this year so far. In fact, hasn't scored until now. But that changes in the most emphatic style. It's a big kick too for the Saints.
Well, it was just really well worked by Jason Blake. Pushed hard to get out into space. It was a really good kick to find him, but you still got to convert. Here's Nick Del Santo, as you said, when he gets the ball, he generally gets involved in a chain. And then Malira, just a really good vision, saw him early, and he exposed the space behind.
Nice feeling there for Jason Blake and the Saints fans. It's back to a 9-point ball game. Oh, classical ruck and roving combination. Blake to Hayes to Ray to the 50. Falls the way of Armitage. No room to move there. Johnson the tackler. Goddard creative. Del Santo go with the flow. Armitage put it past to Mill. It was always going to be difficult. It dropped short, but not short enough.
Nick Smith made the error there of having 2 players go to the ball, and he allowed Nick Del Santo to be wide. It nearly cost him a shot at goal.
Grundy, Ray just out of his clutches. McGlynn. Here's Tommy Walsh. He had the confidence to change his mind, unfortunately, and he's delivered it straight onto the chest of Clint Jones, who feeds it back to Hayes, who's starting to find it now for the Saints. Up to possession 5. This is Graham as they work their way around the Swans' defensive structures.
Because they're one-on-one, though, guys, this is why they're not getting through clean. There's no easy ball against Sydney. They're completely locked down now and have to go to a contest where they've been dynamic across half-back.
Well over the head of Revolt, the Dempster kick. This is Parker trying to sum things up. Goes back to Richards. Unconvincing, you've got to say. Parker still finding the trees in the forest there and not really finding much daylight to get out. In the end, it's out of bounds.
Just have a look at this replay. It happens so often in this heavy contested ball situation. Armitage goes. You can see now Smith comes forward instead of going to Del Santo and relying on Johnson going to the ball carrier. He goes as well, creating a 2-on-2, and Del Santo gets the ball away. 2-on-1, I should say.
Armitage's footy. And the Saints trailing by 9 and pressing. Revolt's got the jump there.
Gee, they did that well. There was some great work off the ball. Stephen Milne and Justin Kazitsky both ran interference. Milne came back hard, took his man Nick Smith through traffic, And Justin Kaczynski left his man Grundy and actually put a block on Ted Richards.
Sloppy work there by the Swans, who were only interested in the space between Rewald and the goal, and they've been exposed.
Gee, tell you
And
what,
improved their percentages here by probably about 50%.
Rhys Shaw wasn't happy. He gave a fearful spray. I think it might have been to Craig Bird.
Nick Del Santo, 5 goals for this year. Quiet start for the day, but he's come into the frame in the last few minutes, and he's front and centre right now with a kick just like that. They're back to within 3.
Well, Craig Bird has been running head-to-head with Del Santo the last 4 or 5 minutes, and he too was probably thinking half space, half man on man, and there once again.
They just got caught in the changeover, Grundy and Richards.
Here he is, perfect block. Richards assumes responsibility for Rewald, but Grundy hasn't got the leg speed to go.
Have a look at Rhys Shaw here. Well, that would be pleasing for St Kilda, just to see Nick Del Santo getting a little bit of the ball, just the 4 touches, but he's got a goal to his name. He's going to have to work hard with Craig Bird as an opponent.
Margin clipped back to 3. Blake was trying hard. McGlynn, no hands free in there. Matt, they're completely swamped.
Thanks, lads. Cheers. Thanks, cheers.
Jared McVeigh with 8 disposals early in the match. It's not often Clint Jones gets beaten like that early in a game.
Nope. Thanks,
Joey Kenny at the moment, the key midfield player. He's gone to full forward again. Gilbert's with him.
Third man up, Del Santo. Goddard fed it out. Malera, neat little sidestep, but there was just too much traffic to get through there.
Good tackle.
And it was Kieran Jack who snaffled him up and got O'Keefe moving, and now Jetta. And the Swans fans eagerly wait to see what he's got in store for them here. It's a stop play, so it is exciting as we've seen some weeks. Floating it to the 50s. He was to the interfere. I think he might have.
Go to him, Tom.
Well, that's 2 now.
Oh, shit, hold there.
That he's done exactly the same thing. So the forward coach for the Swans needs to get to him and say, this is how you do it, this is not how you do it.
Sensed some danger there, Clint Jones. Found an escape valve, and outward bound goes Gwilt with a bit of a dodgy number out to the wing, and McGlynn, who's been pushing up the ground, and he's doing okay, gets it out of bounds. He's won 4 contested possessions so far, Ben McGlynn, out of 4. Quick release from the boundary umpire, and Blake was onto that, and he serviced Graham pretty nicely. Here's McGlynn again, winning it back for the Swans. Hanbury, sharp stuff from Kennedy, as you'd expect. Onto the chest. Well, it wasn't in the end, was it, for the diving read?
Oh, dangerous handball going backwards and losing possession.
Even now, though, it's Kennedy. Hayes gave it straight back to Bolton. It's handball to handball at the moment, but finally they get one into a teammate. And Malcheski delivers. And little Ben McGlynn's had a terrific few minutes here, and he'll line up for goal.
Yeah, you heard the St Kilda fans say throw.
There was an interesting little handball in there, Jared.
I think you'll find the replay says he got it with a fist. Let's have another look. Yep,
Like
he
it.
poke punched it.
That's a great kick, though. To hit him between 2 defenders. He's worked hard, Benny McGlynn. Up and back. It's be good reward.
9 goals, 7 for the season for Ben McGlynn. His first shot of the afternoon is as good as you could hope for. And they're back to 9 again.
He's been a significant player in this opening term. 6 possessions and a goal. He's been involved in a couple of scoring chains, though. And he'd be pretty happy with the way he started. There's that
That's a good handball.
poke punch once again. It looked, for all intents and purposes, like a throw. And that's why it's so difficult for umpires, because in the end, he handballed it. Unusual, but he still got fist on the ball.
3 clearances, 5 contested possessions, and now a goal for Ben McGlynn. And Sydney re-established that 9-point buffer with only seconds remaining in this opening term. Lenny Hayes and his big day, 5 disposals, which is just one down, or maybe a couple down on his average. There's a good tackle from Saad, but only Jeff Ferring could kick the ball that far, I think, in the St Kilda Guernsey. Sydney 4-4-28, leading St Kilda 3-1-19 at quarter time. here at Etihad Stadium. We expected a struggle. That's exactly what we've got. The Swans with their nose in front at the first break.